Welcome to the April 22nd, 2024 meeting of the Sandusky City Commission. We'll have an invocation offered by Commissioner Crable, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Lord, we come before you humbled not only by your wisdom and knowledge and all that you bring, but humbled in our own humanity. We need to learn from you, and we need to get better every single day. So we ask that you shower us with the knowledge that you have to allow us to make better decisions, good decisions for our community, which I think largely we do, but we still need your help. Amen.
Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Myers, will you call the roll?
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Brady?
Here.
Mr. Murray?
Here.
Mr. Pajali?
Here.
Mr. Coons?
Here.
Mr. Crable?
Here.
Ms. Spargo? Here. Mr. Waddington?
Here.
Commissioners, you have before you the minutes of our meeting of April the 9th, 2024. What is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Waddington.
I move that we accept the minutes of the April 9th meeting as presented.
Second.
Been a motion and a second discussion. Without objection, the motion will be approved, and hearing no objection, that motion is approved and those minutes are approved. Tonight we have the benefit of a project update on Battery Park. This presentation will be by Mr. John Sines from the Marus Group.
Good evening. I want to thank everyone, commissioners, Mr. Orzek, staff, the residents, for the opportunity to update our project and where it sits today. I have the presentation that we presented about a year ago in Planning Commission. First thing I'll say is no major elements have changed. So we're still looking same unit counts, same mixed use, retail, hotel, all those elements are staying the same and in the same spot at this point. There's the site as it sits now. You can see the marina. The overall layout of the marina. I'll start kind of my description of the updates from the water. Significant structural engineering, coastal analysis, hydraulic studies, bores, subsurface bores, all of that has been happening in the background, which is requirements of the ODNR applications. And one of the major factors of those applications is as we improve the Mig Street Pier and all those breakwaters, they get larger. You know, we're adding stone to them. We're adding about 2.5 feet of elevation, so all that will raise up about 2.5 feet. And all that's in conjunction with the hydraulic design that tells us where the waves are going to be in 12 years. So those experts are kind of weighing in on that, and those designs sit right now at about 60% as they continue. So we'll continue those plans through the ODNR application over the next couple months. That's probably a 3-4 month process still remaining on that. And that will also go to the Army Corps of Engineers for anything we're doing that touches the bottom. That falls under their realm. In addition to that, we started control of the marina, the Battery Park Marina, a couple years ago. We're happy to say we've brought in a new operator. F3, Founders 3, is a world-renowned marina operator. They have and manage marinas from Abu Dhabi to Minnesota to the West Coast up in Portland. So we really feel they're the right team for this project. They are going to be helping with the programming, which is very important at this site as it all gets built out, and they will be investors in it. So they've bought into the idea. The marina itself will be undergoing significant upgrades in the actual bay in the marina portion. We're going to phase that. So there's been a lot of talk, and I've been out in the field and talked to a couple of the boaters about how we're going to do that, and that project will be phased. We're going to try to displace as few boats as possible. So we're hoping that work will start as soon as October, the end of this boating season, as we get boats out of there. I'd like to start doing further assessments, cleaning up the bottom. There'll be dredging to be done. And then the dock manufacturer should have our first batch of docks by that time that we'll be able to start to pull in. And these are brand new aluminum docks, significant improvement from what's out there that was been there since the 80s. The actual breakwaters haven't been improved since the 50s, so those are in dire need of some improvements. The cores that we provided in there show void spaces in those piers and breakwaters, so that'll all be remedied with those construction plans, the reconstruction plans of the breakwaters. The Marina Services Building will probably be one of the first buildings to go up that is attached to one of the garage, but it is a standalone structure. So we'll be able to maintain all the services within the marina as we build inland. So I really foresee this project starting on the water and continuing inland. With one question, we have pretty good support so far on hotel operators. And as we get closer and closer, it'll be their decision if they want to build first or after some of the retail and some of the other elements. But there's been very strong market studies performed, and I can't get into it too deeply, but it's exciting, the operators that we're speaking to in regards to that. And in regards to some of this, I wish I could say more, but the project is moving along with some LOIs on the condos. We've been talking to a couple restaurants that are close to signing LOIs for some of these major spaces. And to be honest, those are what we need to make this project get over the finish line. We need some of those people in early before we start, or the senior loans just won't come. In this market, you used to be able to borrow 70, 80% of a project. Now it's more like 45, 50% of a project. So we have to get creative in regards to that, and making the banks more comfortable with LOIs, end users, things like that is how we do that. One of the other major factors that's going on behind the scenes is some of our grant applications. So State of Ohio is in a good spot. They have a lot of programs out there for redevelopment, remediation, and demolition. We have submitted for a brownfield grant that's through the Ohio Department of Development. There is some remediation spots, and when I say that, some underground, it could be they found some old oil or some sort of contamination in those spots. So we'll be able to go in and remediate those and get rid of those soils before the project actually starts. Those grants will also help us with some of the public infrastructure improvements, which would be the extension of Water Street, Miggs Street, and the other connecting street in there. So all that public right-of-way involves new sewers, waters, sidewalk, the whole thing. And I'm happy to see all the progress over there. It's gorgeous. I came in a little early, wrapping up over there, and that's a great tie-in to downtown, and we're happy to be at the end of that construction and those improvements. In addition to the brownfield, we're going after the All Ohio Future Fund. Again, that is through the Ohio Department of Development. That fund, we are asking specifically for the breakwaters to get some money to offset those costs on those. Very hard to borrow money on the breakwaters since they don't really generate us any revenue. So that's one of the hurdles for the project, is getting funding and private equity and vision to see if we fix the breakwaters, the marina gets better, the upland gets better. So people are starting to see that. I think in town, people are starting to see that vision start come true. So that's a big one. We're hoping to find out about those end of May and June. So those will, again, help the pre-development, plan development, getting LOIs signed, getting the infrastructure in place to allow these other retailers to see the vision. We have a capital request in the Ohio capital budget. So we've made it through the House of Representatives with a vote. They earmarked $1 million for the viewing tower at the end of Miggs Street Pier. The Senate is a few weeks after, so we're hoping to hear on that by the end of the month. So we'll know if we have $1 million towards that viewing tower at the end of Meigs Street Pier at the end of the month, so we're pretty happy about that. As things really start to fall in place, there's a ton of moving parts with this, but they start to gel together, and successes just cause more successes, I don't know, and it just really starts steamrolling. So we're happy to say like the $6 million dock project is moving forward full steam. The breakwater project, $25 to $30 million right now is where the numbers are coming in, is like I said, at 60% with a lot of funding publicly and privately we're getting some traction on. Let's see, we've started the Buster application, which would remove all the underground tanks that are at the park right now. And then we've also made a couple federal grant requests to Congressman Keptur into her capital budget. And I kind of reading all these off to explain the communication and the lobbying we're doing not only locally with you guys, but also down in Columbus, where some of those big dollars are going to come from. We have meetings set up with ODNR to find out what other programs we can slide into. And again, those are for these public infrastructures. And we really appreciate the relationship Sandusky has had as we go after some of these grants. It wouldn't be doable without that private-public relationship, and getting these dollars into the city is only a plus. And there's a lot of money out there for ODOD to weigh many projects within Ohio. So we're hoping that we're one of those larger projects that they earmark some funds for. Okay, I talked a lot. Any questions from the board?
Comments or questions, commissioners? Mr. Sines, I think I know the answer to this, but probably good for the public to hear it. And I know that you have and are designing the docks to accommodate the general public. So what we are not building here a gated community. You're building a community where the public, whether they're buying a cup of coffee or a $500,000 condominium, they're going to be able to get on these docks and enjoy the beauty of the bay and the lake.
100%. I think both sides of that will be very happy, the public and then also our marina guests. The security will be on the gangways leading to their docks versus the whole marina being fenced in and looking like it's not open to the public. So I think the public will be very happy with the streetscape and the wayfinding and getting them out there.
Great. Mr. Bajali, it's not like you got a...
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Mr. Sines, are you going to apply for the TMUD funding?
We are going to apply for the TMUD fund this next round again, yes.
And that's 20 million?
We'll be asking for about 25 with the assumption you land less than that. 17, 18 is our goal.
And I had a question on another project. I don't know if you're the person to ask. The Maroos project right down the street here with the Fike building.
Bike building, yes.
Do you know when the first floor will be renovated? I know there was talk about a restaurant.
Yes,
retail.
we have been talking to a restaurant for that space, and we've been talking to another operator for that space. So I foresee at least one of those getting filled up before the summer months would be great, or started the construction on the inside, because we only took them to warm white boxes. So that means it's drywalled, minimum HVAC and water. So, and we come in, we'll give them some tenant improvement money, we'll offset their initial costs and get them in there.
And just for my clarification, is that 41 residential units?
Yeah, 41 residential units. We opened in the winter, which is a hard time to lease up, and I'm happy to say I think we hit 93, 94%.
Yeah, I had
this
heard
week.
that you did pretty well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Terrific. Additional comments or questions, commissioners? Mr. Orza.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just publicly thank Mr. Sines. I know Colleen, Aaron, and a lot of the staff have been involved with discussions. He's been very responsive to any questions, concerns, or moving this process along the last year, chasing us down for a lot of
I think all of us have each other on speed dial.
He's been very responsive, and we appreciate the partnership.
Additional comments, commissioners? Thank you, Mr. Sines.
Thank you.
Look forward to
Have a good
seeing
evening.
a backhoe in the ground. Next on our agenda is a public hearing on the CDBG 2024 to 2028 consolidated plan and the 2024 annual action plan. And that public hearing is going to be conducted by this gentleman.
Yeah, Jason Smith with Wade Trim.
Hey, Jason.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You're not Nicole, I know that.
I'm not Nicole, no. She would do a better job, probably. Thanks for having me today, Commissioners. Jason Smith with Wade Trim. I've been assisting the city through the consolidated planning process. The consolidated plan here at the city helps govern how we spend our CDBG funding through funds that were received through the federal government through HUD. This plan will cover our 2024 to 2028 fiscal years. So this plan will be active as of July 1 this year. Well, I'll get into some issues with scheduling, why that might not be the date yet, but we might be a little bit delayed due to some federal funding delays. But this does cover our CDBG grant. The city's been receiving community development block grant funds for years. I've actually helped out the city through their last 2 consolidated plans. This will be my 3rd. And within that consolidated plan, we try to develop a vision, a blueprint, and how to help us make decisions on how we spend the funding over the course of our fiscal years. And for this year, in addition, not only the consolidated plan, but our annual action plan, which is going to be our annual budget for our CDBG funds. So first, we try to identify what our priority needs in the community are, and we use our previous plan is partially as a guide. We also reach out to the public through public hearings like today, a public hearing held with the CPAC, and we also issued a questionnaire which we received 83 responses back from. And data analysis, HUD data along with census data. We throw all that together, we assess it, and we try to identify what the priority needs are in the community. Now, additionally, we try to provide you with goals that will help address those priority needs. I have here on my screen, the small bullet points underneath the goals are some of the things we've heard from the public on how they feel our top priority needs, what they feel our top priority needs should be over the course of the next 5 years. And with housing, specifically quality affordable housing, so those are things like rehab programs and lead abatement type activities that folks felt were priorities, along with affordability, down payment assistance programs, rental assistance, utility costs, and so on, are also top priorities. In addition to fair housing is with any community that receives CDBG funding, a requirement that we affirmatively further fair housing in the community. And we do that through providing funding through nonprofit organizations to help us do that. Public facilities and infrastructure is our next main goal. Those are things like blight elimination, public facilities such as parks and community centers, public improvements, infrastructure, streetscaping projects, sidewalks, and also coordination with other city projects, allowing us the opportunity to leverage our federal funds if we think it makes sense with other initiatives throughout the city to help redevelopment and revitalization throughout the city. Our third goal is to help provide funding for public service activities, and those are activities that generally assist folks that are low and moderate income that need services, social services, special needs populations such as seniors and persons with disabilities. Also things like youth services, mental health services, and homeless services, and those are generally programs that are provided through nonprofit agencies outside the city government. We are capped at 20% of our grant, 15% of our grant for that type of service. So when we look at our total dollar amount, which I'll share in a moment here, we are limited to 15% of that grant amount each year to provide those types of services. And then finally, the city's allowed a certain portion of their funding, 20% is the cap of their grant to provide administration of the grant. It is a federal grant that requires reporting. There's a lot of planning involved and so on, and along with the administration of the grant from day to day, that the city's allowed an allocation for, a portion of their allocation to help fund that. This year, we anticipate our annual allocation to be roughly $700,000. We do have a dollar amount in our spreadsheet here, or in our PowerPoint. That is with the caveat that the federal government's not released our final allocation yet. So we are technically working off an estimated grant amount. This is a pretty late date for them to announce our grant. Normally, it's announced earlier in the year, but we do have to charge forward with our planning because we do have deadlines. So we are operating currently under the assumption that our grant amount is going to be roughly the same as last year, which from what I can tell from the federal government, that's probably going to be the case. So just note today, for our public hearing, we're working off estimated dollar amounts. We will come back with a final budget once the federal government releases final allocations for final approval from the commission. So now I want to just share with you the projects that are being recommended currently for our annual action plan. So this would be our 2024 fiscal year beginning on July 1. I mentioned the administration amount, or administration project, which we have allocated $132,185. Our fair housing initiatives, $9,500. Public works activities, which could include street repaving in low and moderate income areas, which would be for $289,000. Our community development, public space improvements throughout the city. Those are things like public space improvements and park revitalization in the amount of $130,419. $100,000 is programmed in for code enforcement. That's a program that the city has funded through CDBG pretty regularly recently. And that's to provide code enforcement and blight elimination throughout the city. And then finally, our public service amount, so we call that assistance to subrecipients being those nonprofit agencies of $56,000. Our youth programming services are budgeted for $50,264, and those are to provide programming for at-risk youth and low and moderate income youth throughout the city. And finally, our last two, lead-based paint removal program for $125,000 and our Healthy Homes rehabilitation program for $25,000. Those are both administered through the county. So as I mentioned, this is public hearing number 2 for us. We are within our 30-day public comment period, so our draft document is out for public comment currently for a 30-day period that'll end on May 4th. We will come back once we have a final budget amount for a final approval from the City Commission. I do anticipate that happening, the announcement being made early May. So you may see that plan, the final plan in front of you for consideration sometime in the latter part of May. Typically, our deadline is mid-May to submit the plan, but as I mentioned earlier, given the delay with the federal government, we're going to be a little bit behind, and that's okay. We've been provided the thumbs up from the federal government to do that. So that is all I have for my presentation. We do have a public hearing, so any questions you do have or any comments from the public, we can also take.
Allow comments from the public regarding this public hearing. Step to the podium and share with us your comments. Commissioners, comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Pajali.
do you want to speculate on why they haven't announced the amount yet?
Not publicly. Well, I can say that I have seen the federal government delayed. I don't know. You see what happens with the spending bills. They're close to shutting down the government every time they have a discussion about funding the government. That's the culprit. Typically, if it's late, we see like a February, March announcement. So the most recent discussion in Washington, the funding bill that passed, and I think it was late February, early March, from that point, allows HUD 60 days to make the announcements on allocations. So that was March 9th. 60 days from March 9th is May 8th, I think-ish. So they'll probably be pretty close to that date for the announcement.
It wouldn't be because they might not have as much as they thought they'd have to allocate?
From what I can tell is the amount for our community development block grant program is staying constant from last year. So we shouldn't see too much of a change.
Additional comments or questions, Commissioner? Thank you for the presentation. We hope we get something.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Any residents with comments regarding tonight's agenda, please step to the podium and share with us your name and address and your agenda comments. No takers. Commissioners, you have before you several communications from staff recommending various pieces of legislation. Can I have a motion to accept these communications?
So moved.
Second.
Been a motion and a second discussion. Without objection, the motion will be approved, and hearing no objection, that motion's approved. Commissioners, we have 3 items on the consent agenda this evening. Do any of you wish to move any of those items to the regular agenda? Ms. Myers, will you present the consent agenda?
Yes, Mr. President. Item A, liquor license transfer of ownership for J&L Lakeside Group LLC. Item B, consent for summer holiday enforcement program grant application to Ohio Department of Public Safety. Item C, consent for grant application to ODNR for the Pathway Landing Project.
Commissioners, having heard these liquor license, ordinance, and resolution, how do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Murray.
I vote for the adoption or the passage of the motion and for the adoption of the ordinances, the ordinance and resolution pursuant to the charter section indicated in the agenda.
Second.
Been a motion and a second discussion. Ms. Myers, will you call the roll on that motion, please?
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Pajali?
Yes.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo?
Yes.
Mr. Wantington?
Yes.
And now on the liquor license, ordinance, and resolution.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Pajali?
Yes.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo?
Yes.
Mr. Wantington?
Yes.
Those liquor license, ordinance, and resolutions are passed. We'll turn to our regular agenda. Ms. Myers, you present item number 1, resolution number 1.
We need to pass either resolution number 1 or resolution number 2. Resolution number 1, it is requested a resolution be passed denying MRE Development Companies LLC subway appeal of the Sandusky Landmark Commission's decision to deny the certificate of appropriateness for exterior paint color alterations of the building located at 160 Wayne Street and declaring that this resolution shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter. Resolution 2, it's requested a resolution be passed granting MRE Development Company LLC's DBA subway appeal of the Sandusky Landmark Commission's decision to deny the certificate of appropriateness for exterior paint color alterations of the building located at 160 Wayne Street and declaring that this resolution shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard resolution number 1, what is your pleasure? Do I have a motion?
Mr. Commissioner,
Mr. Crable.
I would move passage or approval of resolution number 2
I'll second it.
in accordance with Section 14 that
Believe
designates.
I will rely on our law director, our interim law director for some clarification. I believe we're dealing with resolution number 1 first, and it will require, if we don't have a motion on that, then we move to resolution number 2. Is that not correct?
Yes, that's correct. I think that if you vote on the motion denying it, you would never vote on the motion granting it. Because if you vote to deny it, you're
Yes.
done.
I believe what was on the table was resolution number 1 that I asked to deal with. And if we do not have a motion of that, I believe we can move the motion to resolution number 2.
I just assumed they were alternatives.
Do I have a motion? Do I have a motion to consider resolution number 1? Then that resolution dies on the table. Do I have a motion for resolution number 2? Mr. Crable.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I move approval of resolution number 2 as shown here in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Second.
Got a motion and a second discussion.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Murray.
I'm going to vote to support the Landmark Commission's work here. We ask a lot of volunteers to spend their time considering issues that are of importance to the city long-term. I think it is important to maintain our historical perspective downtown, I think it's only reasonable to expect that when you're in a downtown area, when you take actions, many of them require checking in with the city to see if that is permitted. That's true with signs, it's true with materials. I had my own experience with that when we built our office building 30 years ago now. We went through, it was a different name for the committee at that point, it was the Downtown Design Review Board, if I remember correctly. But I believe that to be important. I believe that when you live in a community, it's reasonable to expect that there are going to be restrictions on what you can do. That's why we live in society. There are zoning rules, there are signage rules, any number of rules that we have to comply with. And so I think it's reasonable to expect those in this circumstance. I don't feel strongly on the matter, but I do want to vote in support of the Landmark Committee.
Additional comments or questions, Commissioners?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Varga.
I understand what Commissioner Murray is saying, but I will say in talking with Colleen and Aaron over this topic a while back, that there was a lot of confusion and maybe some miscommunication about how this was supposed to transpire, notifications, hearings, things like that. And when I spoke with them, I asked, what is our process if I'm an investor and want to come downtown and I want to open a business? What do I need to do? And do we do a good job of sharing that information? And they agreed at the time that we need to make sure we do a good job of that, and maybe there's things we can work on. And so at this point for this, I'm going to vote in favor of Mr. Wesley because I believe that it didn't go the way it should have gone. And going forward, I think we need to be committed to people who want to invest and have a business in our downtown, that we all work together to make sure that happens properly. So that is why I'm voting in favor of Mr. Wesley.
Additional comments or questions, Commissioner?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Coombs.
I agree with Commissioner Vargo with some additions. Primarily for me, the number one issue is always about effective communication. I've heard individuals say that, well, we don't really have an obligation, they should know already. I'm just not one of those people that believes that we should have the expectation or the assumption that every single business down there knows. And so I believe that what this does is that it basically makes us rewind, reset, and say, wait a minute, you know what? We need to make sure that every single business does know. They need to receive everything that is required so they'll know what the expectations are. And then at that point, there'll be no excuses. But in this particular case, and correct me if I'm wrong, this subway, this gentleman was there before the start of the Landmark Commission. Am I wrong about that? But if that's the case, that really opened my eyes. That really made me say, wait a minute, he was there before the start of the Landmark Commission? How do we know he received everything that he needed to know? Now, I'm basing it up on what he said. And so for me, it comes down to you either believe what he said and just say, oh, I'm sorry, but I believe you, or you're not sympathetic to what he said. So I'm in support of Mr. Resling on this.
Additional comments, Commissioner?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Wadding.
I support, I talked this afternoon again with Mr. Crable about this, and small businesses right now coming out of COVID, we've got, they got a tough hurdle. I know the bars or any of the bars, restaurants, any of the businesses downtown, it's tough now. We're coming out of that, not that far removed from COVID, and I want to support the small businesses downtown or any of the, we've got to look at this different. I know there was a rule in place, but talking with some of the other commissioners last week or so, this is the right thing to do to support this subway. So that's where I'm at with it. Thank you.
Additional comments, Commissioner?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Murray.
I'm sorry, if Mr. Crable wanted to speak, I was trying to wait.
Okay, thank you. My comments are fairly simple, and I'm going to try to keep them that way. I think that there are circumstances in which these kinds of decisions are needed. One is with historic properties. Another, more generally, is historic districts. But I don't think that that can ever be considered an all-encompassing issue. And when I see a small business in our downtown, I would really like to see them stay here. And I would not like them to be leaving or getting irritated and thinking about leaving at our own hand, okay? So I am in complete agreement with everything that's been said up here. But I do think that there is an expectation for committees, and I'm speaking, Mr. Murray, to your point. I do think that there's an expectation on the part of committees that they understand that they are advisory to this board, and that if this board feels differently about something, it can be changed. And I think this is a very deserving instance in which it's changed.
Additional comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Murray.
just a point of information, it is my understanding, and maybe Ms. Gilson can confirm this, or maybe Mr. Orszak knows, the duties that were originally assigned to the Downtown Design Review Board were later assumed by the Landmark Commission. So I think the same obligations that existed 31 years ago when we started construction have been in place for the entire time. So I think that law has always been on the books. Ms. Gilson is nodding yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not big on setting precedent. You know, I like to follow the guidelines and regulations, but in this case, I like Mr. Crable's suggestion of when you have a national chain like that, we're not going to get many national chains that come to the downtown. We might consider making an exception, and then that applies only to them to use their brand, their colors. You know, I'm on the Shores and Islands board, and I'm not on the marketing committee, but all I hear about is branding. That's what counts with businesses. And if you take the name Subway off there, you would know it's a Subway because of the colors on there. That's their brand. So that's why I'll be voting yes.
Ms. Myers, will you call the roll on that motion, please?
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Brady?
No.
Mr. Murray?
No.
Mr. Bajali?
Yes.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Vargo?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
That motion is passed by a 5-2 margin, so it will take effect immediately. Ms. Myers, you present item number 2, please.
It is requested an ordinance be passed authorizing and directing.
Excuse me, Ms. Myers, we voted on the motion. Did I fail to vote on the resolution?
Okay.
I think we need to vote on the resolution.
Mr. Brady?
Not exactly immediately. It'll be another 30 seconds.
Mr. Brady?
No.
Mr. Murray?
No.
Mr. Bajali?
Yes.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Vargo?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
That resolution is now passed, and it will take effect immediately.
You think I wasn't paying attention.
Mr. Myers, you present item number 2, please.
Yes, Mr. President. It is requested an ordinance be passed authorizing and directing the city manager to enter into a managed service agreement with DataServe Integrations, LLC of Westlake, Ohio, for professional services for the redesign and implementation of upgraded network infrastructure, and declaring that this ordinance shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this ordinance, how do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Waddington.
I move for the adoption of this ordinance under suspension of the rules in full accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Second.
Been a motion and a second discussion.
Thank you.
Good day. Ms. Myers, will you call the roll on that motion, please?
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Bajali?
Yes.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Vargo?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
And now on the ordinance.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Bajali?
Yes.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Vargo?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
That ordinance is passed. Ms. Ms. Myers, you present item number 3, please.
It is requested an ordinance be passed authorizing and directing the city manager to enter into a delinquent debt collection agreement with the Ohio Attorney General for professional services for the collection of debt for the Sandusky Fire Department and declaring that this ordinance shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this ordinance, what's your pleasure?
Mr. Commissioner,
Commissioner Coons.
move for approval of the ordinance under suspension of the rules and in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Second.
Been a motion and a second discussion.
I have a question.
Mr. Crable?
I remember a number of years ago now that local governments were contracted through the Attorney General's office, but with Buckingham, Holzapfel, et cetera, to do this collection, to actually do the collection work on the ground. Is that what's happening here?
Through you, President Brady, to Commissioner Crable. Previously to this legislation, we worked with State Collection and Recovery Services, LLC. They were in Sandusky. They were bought by another company, excuse me, that's based out of Findlay. Since we changed billing companies for our initial EMS billing, we decided to go with the Attorney General's office. That's what MediCount, our current biller, recommended because they don't take a percentage of the actual debt that they're collecting. They add 10% fee for the Attorney General's office on top of it, whereas state collections, they were getting 25% of the debt that they were actually collecting for us. So we stand to recover a little bit more by going with the Attorney General's office.
Okay. Good choice. Additional comments, Commissioners? Ms. Myers, you call the roll on that motion, please.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Bajali?
Yes.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Vargo?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
And now on the ordinance?
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Bajali?
Yes.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Vargo?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
That ordinance is passed. Ms. Myers, you present item number 4.
It is requested an ordinance be passed authorizing and directing the city manager to expend funds for the purchase of bus shelters, benches, bike racks, and trash cans from Global Industrial of Port Washington, New York, through the Equalis Group Cooperative Purchasing Program for the Sandusky Transit System, and declaring that this ordinance shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this ordinance, how do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Vargas?
I move for the adoption of this ordinance resolution under suspension of the rules in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Second.
Been a motion and a second discussion. Mr.
Chair.
Stacy, go ahead, Mr. Murray.
No, I'll wait.
Mr. Stacy, I had trouble, maybe I didn't look far enough, but I had trouble figuring out, are these 2 new bus shelters or are we replacing bus shelters? Where are these going?
Through the Commissioner and President, thank you for the question. This is for the purchase of 2 bus shelters, 2 bike racks, 2 benches, and 2 trash cans additional.
Additional, so 2 brand new ones. You got a location for them?
We have 3 locations. We have brought it down to 1. We do not have agreement for the installation from said organization yet.
Okay.
The Erie County Health Department took a survey, collected feedback from the public of where they would like the amenities to go, and we've narrowed that down to 3 locations, and we are in communication to finalize the installation at 1 local organization.
Good. And we partner with the health department on this, on
Correct.
this product, didn't we?
Fully reimbursable,
Yeah, great.
$25,000.
Great partnership. Additional comments, Commissioners?
Mr. Chairman. Go ahead, Mr.
Commissioner
Murray.
Jolly.
Go ahead, Mr.
Commissioner Murray?
So my question is to Mr. Orszak or Ms. Reeder. I think transit is terribly important to our residents, and it's terribly important to Erie County businesses. But what is our expected subsidization of transit this year? I mean, all communities need to subsidize transit, period. There's no such thing as transit that is standalone and self-supported. Just has never happened. It never will happen. It's an unreasonable expectation. We do the same thing with our roads. The roads are substantially subsidized by government. So it's nothing wrong with that. But I want to make sure that we're all clear-eyed about the amount, because we've gone in recent years from subsidizing transit from about $300,000 to what I understand is a rather staggering sum going forward.
So last year, we funded transit over $1 million out of the general fund. This year, we have budgeted around $750. We're hoping to make it there, but we won't know until we start getting all the bills in. The challenge that we're having right now is that we're switching back to the federal government operating the transit, and we don't have a number yet for that, and that's kicking off with their in June, July. So we're hoping that number will be the same, but if it's not, then, and we get lower reimbursed, then it's going to drastically impact what we're going to be paying in the transit this year. So we won't know that until we get that information.
Thank you.
Mr. Bajali?
Mr. Chairman, just a comment to Mr. Murray's comments. I have sat down with Ms. Gilson and Mr. Stacy, and he's been working on some cost-saving measures. So we'll be reviewing those soon again, and maybe there'll be some ways to kind of patch those holes and the gaps in funding. But I did want to mention to Mr. Stacy, did I say where we have 5 shelters right now, and this will bring it up to 7?
Correct. We have 135 bus stops, over 5 fixed route lines, equipped with 5 bus shelters.
Yeah, that's amazing. Sometimes I see those people standing out there in the rain, and a shelter would be nice.
Public feedback, if I may, public feedback received from the communications tour we have done. The public would like amenities or transit waiting environments that do protect them from the elements of the weather, as well as making the buses more accessible to board and disembark.
Yeah. And one other thing, and maybe I read it wrong, did it say something about a smoking shelter?
It's the name of the actual shelter is a smoking bus shelter, vented, poly-hoop roof, 4-sided with left and right front openings.
Okay, so that's just the name. That doesn't insinuate that smoking is allowed in there?
Let me be very clear. We do not have smoking restrictions at any of our bus stops.
All right.
Wait a minute, to clarify, you have no restrictions on smoking?
We do not have
So
smoking.
anybody can smoke?
There are no smoking restrictions at our bus stops. Currently.
So you can smoke anything you want now.
Additional comments, Commissioners?
Thanks for pointing that out.
Ms. Myers, you call the roll on that motion, please?
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Bajali?
Yes.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
And now on the ordinance?
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Bajali?
Yes.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
That ordinance is passed. Ms. Myers, you present item number 5, please.
It is requested a resolution be passed accepting and approving the City of Sandusky Tax Incentive Review Council's recommendations regarding current tax agreements and declaring that this resolution shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the City Charter.
Commissioners, having heard this ordinance, how do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Bajali?
I would move to adopt this ordinance in accordance with Section 14 of the City Charter.
Second.
Been a motion and a second discussion. Ms. Myers, will you call the roll on that motion, please?
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Bajali?
Yes.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
And now on the resolution?
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Bajali?
Yes.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
That resolution is passed. Ms. Myers, you present item number 6.
It is requested an ordinance be passed authorizing and directing the city manager to enter into a first agreement to communications site option and land lease agreement with Ohio 2 Skytree MPL Tower Holdings LLC related to the Mylan Road Cell Tower and declaring that this ordinance shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the City Charter.
Commissioners, having heard this ordinance, how do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Coons?
move for adoption of this ordinance under suspension of the rules and in accordance with Section 14 of the City Charter.
Second.
Been a motion and a second discussion. Myers, you call the roll on that motion, please.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Bajali?
Yes.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo?
Yes.
Mr. Wantington?
Yes.
And now on the ordinance.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Bajali?
Yes.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo?
Yes.
Mr. Wantington?
Yes.
That ordinance is passed. Ms. Myers, you present item number 7.
It is requested an ordinance be passed approving a permanent easement and temporary easement granted to the city by CMSC Limited for the Sandusky Bay Pathway and declaring this ordinance shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this ordinance, what is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Waddington.
I move for the adoption of this ordinance under Section 14 of the city charter.
Second.
Been a motion and a second discussion. Ms. Myers, you call the roll on that motion, please.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Bajali?
Yes.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo?
Yep.
Mr. Wantington?
Yes.
And now on the ordinance.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Bajali?
Yes.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo?
Yes.
Mr. Wantington?
Yes.
That ordinance is passed. Ms. Myers, you present item number 8, please.
Number 1, it is requested an ordinance be passed authorizing and directing the city manager to enter into a contract for sale and purchase of real property with Cedar Point Park LLC for a portion of parcel number 57-00771.000 located on Cedar Point Drive, approving temporary easements granted to the city by Cedar Point Park LLC for the Cleveland Road Safety Improvement Project and declaring this ordinance shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard ordinance number 1 of this legislation, what is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Murray.
I move for the adoption of ordinance number 1 under item 8 pursuant to section 14 of the city charter.
Second.
Been a motion and a second discussion. Ms. Myers, you call the roll on that motion, please.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Bajali?
Yes.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo?
Yes.
Mr. Wantington?
Yes.
And now on the ordinance.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Bajali?
Yes.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo?
Yes.
Mr. Wantington?
Yes.
That ordinance is passed. Ms. Myers, you present ordinance number 2, please, of item 8.
It is requested an ordinance be passed approving a temporary easement granted to the city by Cedar Point Park LLC for the Cleveland Road Safety Improvement Project and declaring that this ordinance shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this ordinance, how do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Bajali.
I would move to approve ordinance number 2 under item 8 in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Second.
Been a motion and a second discussion. Ms. Myers, you call the roll on that ordinance, please.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Bajali?
Yes.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo?
Yes.
Mr. Wantington?
Yes.
And now on the ordinance.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Bajali?
Yes.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo?
Yes.
Mr. Wantington?
Yes.
That ordinance is passed with our thanks to Cedar Point for that almost $33,000 donation. Ms. Myers, you present ordinance number 3 of item number 8.
It is requested an ordinance be passed approving a temporary easement granted to the city by Cedar Point Park LLC for the Cleveland Road Safety Improvement Project, authorizing and directing the city manager to execute a bill of sale for the compensation of structures improvements within the temporary easement and declaring that this ordinance shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this ordinance, what is your pleasure?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Coons?
move for adoption of ordinance 3 under item 8 in accordance with section 14 of the city charter.
Second.
Been a motion and a second discussion. Ms. Myers, you call the roll on that motion, please.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Bajali?
Yes.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo?
Yes.
Mr. Wantington?
Yes.
And now on the ordinance.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Bajali?
Yes.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
That ordinance is passed. Ms. Myers, you present the last item, item number 9.
It is requested an ordinance be passed authorizing and directing the city manager to expend funds to Garland DBS Incorporated of Cleveland, Ohio through the U.S. Communities Government Purchasing Alliance for the roof replacement and masonry facade restoration to the clarifier building at the Big Island Waterworks plant and declaring this ordinance shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this ordinance, what is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Murray.
while I can, I'm going to make a motion to approve a recommendation by Mr. Klein that's under $1 million because we don't get through too many meetings without those. So I move for adoption of this ordinance pursuant to Section 14 of the city charter.
Second.
Got a motion and a second discussion. I think if you add up all the roofs he's replaced, it's way over $1 million.
He's got a lot of roofs.
Yeah. Additional comments, Commissioners? Ms. Myers, you call roll on the motion, please.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Bajali?
Yes.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
And now on the ordinance.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Bajali?
Yes.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
That ordinance is passed. Turn to our city manager for his report.
Good evening, Commissioners, audience, and staff. First, I have a donation of $200 for the K-9 fund. It was received from the Erie County Home Builders Association. If we get a motion to approve that donation.
So moved.
Been a motion
Second.
and a second
Second.
discussion. Without objection, motion be approved. Hearing no objection, that motion is approved with our thanks.
Thanks. Parks and Rec would like to thank Safe Harbor Sandusky Marina for their $5,000 sponsorship of Movies by the Bay for 2024. Movies by the Bay is a summer movie series happening on the Jackson Street Pier on Monday, starting June 17th. If we get a motion to accept that donation.
So moved.
Second.
Been a motion and a second discussion. Without objection, that motion will be approved, and hearing no objection, that motion is approved. And with our thanks.
And Parks and Rec would like to thank the Friends of the Greenhouse for paying for the removal of the old boiler at the Sandusky Greenhouse. The original boiler was not operational and was removed as part of the ongoing efforts to update and maximize the space at the greenhouse. This was a donation of $4,455.42 that was paid to Gunlock Sheet Metal Works to complete the work. I guess I don't know if I guess I needed a motion to accept that donation from the Friends of the Greenhouse.
Give you one of those.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second discussion. Without objection, the motion is approved. Hearing no objection, that's approved. Our thanks to the Friends of the Greenhouse. They have saved us thousands of dollars in their donations to this community. I would like at some point for us to make a list of those because they are literally in the thousands of dollars. I'm thinking of the lighting of the Boy with the Boot, the fountain work they've done. They seem to be all over the place and very well-meaning and very appreciative of their efforts.
And a bunch of time spent in the dirt. And,
Yes, time spent in the dirt.
For administration, the city launched a redesigned website on Wednesday, April 10th. Excuse me. The new website design was based on resident feedback from a public survey last year, as well as industry best practices. Included in the website is a new search feature to help make it easier for residents to find things, as well as a new report a concern form where residents can submit issues like potholes, tall grass, park issues, etc. They will be routed to the appropriate staff member. Residents can find that form at www.cityofsandusky.com/report. The Customer Accounting Office would like to encourage property owners to sign up for our online billing system. Creating an online account allows you to view your water and sewer bills online as well as pay online. If you sign up for the online billing, you still have the option to pay your bill in person at City Hall. If you're a tenant you can also view bills and make payments online without registering for an account. You will need the account number, including the dash, and the property owner's last name to make a payment online. Please reach out to Customer Accounting at 419-627-5893 with any questions of these features. Public Works, the Cleveland Road Waterline underground work should be completed the week of April 22nd, and restoration should commence. The Division of Forestry will be honoring Arbor Day with a presentation about the importance of our urban forest and proper tree care at the Erie County Senior Center lunch program this Friday, April 26th at noon. All are welcome to attend. For more information, contact the Erie County Senior Center at 419-626-2560. Water crews will commence flushing fire hydrants this week. Periodic flushing of water mains is required to ensure high-quality potable water. Crews will move through zones in consecutive order, starting with Zone 1. It takes approximately 1 week to complete each zone. For questions, contact the water plant at 419-627-5805. Got a long report tonight, sorry, but you got 3 weeks in between, so. The asphalt plants are now open for the 2024 season. All are encouraged to report street issues, including potholes and dead animals, by calling 419-627-5829 or visiting www.cityofsandusky.com/report. For community development, there will be a fair housing training focusing on the social service arena on Tuesday, April 23rd, from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the Sandusky Library. The training is for social service providers, advocates, agencies, and organizations. For more information, call 1-800-850-0467. On Thursday, April 25th at 2:30, there will be a landlord symposium at the Erie County Senior Center. Free combo smoke and carbon monoxide detectors will be available. For more information, call Erie Housing Authority at 419-625-0262. And to update the commission and the community on the hotel at the Jackson Street Pier, or Jackson Street lot, the Community Development Department has been working closely with Fairmount Properties and North Coast Inns over the past 9 months, as both companies have engaged in due diligence and financial modeling exercises for the development of a multi-use development at the Jackson Street parking lot. Both parties have been working under a memorandum of understanding, which has now expired. At expiration, the development team indicated their desire to continue to pursue financing opportunities that will require additional time. They are also engaged in a process that more clearly defines the feasibility of a conference center to accurately size it to fit the demands of the amenity. City Commission will be presented with the MOU extension request within the next month. We've been working diligently with them. They've given us a timeline for the extension, and that'll be coming to the commission soon, so we'll have that conversation when that arises. And lastly, a reminder that the updated Sandusky Preservation Design Guidelines have been adopted by City Commission and are available on the Historic Preservation page of the city website. All new Landmark Commission applications will be evaluated based on the updated guidelines. Properties that are individually listed as historic landmarks or within either of the city's 2 historic districts, which are the downtown and Cable Park, must apply for and receive a certification of appropriateness before completing any exterior changes to the property. The new guidelines are easy to read and understand these requirements that protect our city's cultural heritage and architectural integrity. We encourage the community to learn more by exploring the new guidelines document. And that'll conclude my report. Happy to take any questions.
Questions or comments for City Manager?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Whiting.
I got a couple things. First thing I want to say is I want to thank Mr. Orzak. I've called him twice a week for the last 3 or 4 weeks. Pastor Darden was one example. Durham Park, I don't know what was going on out there, but and then the Falling Stones. I mean, it seems like that's what I appreciate about you. You get back and you always copy me, and I think that's great. The other thing is dump day. We've had the Gentlemen's Club down there for years. I would like to make a motion that we have a pizza party for them, order pizzas for them. You know, they're down there 4 or 5 hours every year, and I think it'd be smart or prudent if we got to get in their own wallets or whatever. I don't know what our money's like to order pizzas for them, but I appreciate that. That's a lot of work.
I'll be happy to take care of that out of my budget, sir.
Well, thank you.
That'd be great.
I'll reach out to them and we'll figure out a date and time.
Let me know. I can go into the 11.
Sounds good.
Additional comments or questions for the City Manager? Not items of old business. Any items of old business, Commissioners? Items of new business. Any items of new business, Commissioners?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Murray.
So we've been having a public conversation about what to do with the new rec center, and as we think about transitioning from Mills to the new facility in the coming years, I think we need to a little bit more sharply define what it is that we're going to do in terms of programming, and then that has an impact on what the space looks like. All of us have our own thoughts but there are folks in our community who have a lot of expertise on what students need, what the elderly need, how such a facility would work. We've had a lot of public input. We've had thousands of surveys completed. We've had voting by folks, not, of course, in a formal way, but in a very carefully controlled way. And they've indicated what they would like. We have to fit with what everyone would like with what we can afford. And it would be my hope that we can get behind creating an advisory committee that would help us sort through and come back with a report and recommendation for the commission in terms of what the initial programming looks like, what the space in general, not looks like, but sizes, and what the activities are and amenities are going to be there. We have an initial idea, but we need to put a little more finer point on that before we give direction to an architect to develop plans. And so I'm going to make a motion to create an advisory board and ask them to report to us within 60 days after they convene to address the items that I indicated. And what I would like to do is create the advisory board by essentially ex officio or position. And so my proposal is that we create an advisory board, and we haven't spoken with these folks yet, so we need to do all this, but these would be either the director, the superintendent, the manager, or the CEO of the following organizations, or their proxy. Because sometimes they will have a knowledgeable person within their organization that they can send, maybe has a little bit more time to devote to it and offer their input. So those organizations would be Cedar Point, Firelands Hospital, just Firelands Health now, Serving Our Seniors, NAACP, Sandusky City Schools, Civista, the head of the Sandusky government, the city manager, Health Department, a member of the Board of Directors of GSP, and the Rec Department Superintendent, the Youth Programming Supervisor, and a former city manager who can participate in this without having to be concerned about the politics.
City Commissioner.
Former city commissioner, what did I say?
City manager.
Oh, former city commissioner, yes, thank you. That's what I meant. So that's my motion.
That is your motion.
I'll second it.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Discussion.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Varga.
I think that's a good idea, Commissioner Murray. I just want to make sure that our experts, as well as the commission, our experts in our planning and our experts in our rec and our experts here who we talk to, and ultimately the decisions come to our financial experts. And, advisory committees sometimes, they have great ideas and everything, but ultimately we're the ones who are responsible to how this ends up into the taxpayer. So I want to make sure that the ultimate decision lies with our experts and everyone here.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Mr. Murray.
I want to address Commissioner Vargo's concern, and I thank you for pointing that out because I failed to mention that. I did speak with Mr. Orzak about that and having the architect available, and of course we've named two of the folks from our rec department on that group. I would expect that the staff would be available to support the advisory committee, and there will be some time that we will pay for in terms of outside expertise to assist this committee, because they can't be making decisions without knowing what things cost. There's a budget to be maintained, both in terms of operations and construction. So yes, thank you for pointing out. I would expect that they would have that full
And recommendations. You said decisions, but recommendations.
recommendations.
Advisory.
Yes, it's in the nature of an advisory committee.
Okay,
Yes, you're right.
Thank you.
If all of you help me, I'll get this right. But
You did well.
There's more to come.
okay.
Additional comments or questions, Commissioners?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Coots.
I seconded that because, as you know, I am the liaison for the Recreation Board. And in those Recreation Board meetings, I had already kind of called for an advisory committee, which is, I think it's much better for the entire commission to support it, so it'll move along with, it says something to the public, right? So I am absolutely 100% behind that. I noticed you mentioned some individual organizations that were already on my radar. I had already reached out to probably half of those individuals' organizations with the names of the individuals too. I didn't hear Boys and Girls Club. I think Boys and Girls Club is one with Jerome Johnson, Sue Doherty, of course, with Serving Our Seniors. But those individuals already reached out to them. So I don't know how we proceed in terms of reaching out to the others, but I'm hoping that what we do is we bring those individuals together to collaborate on what can be done. And one of the things that wasn't mentioned, and I think I mentioned this as well in the Recreation Board meeting, is that many of those individuals are from organizations that we partner with on grant opportunities, right? Where you outline exactly what you'll do in programming along with our city staff. So that's important. That's why I support this advisory committee.
Excellent. Additional comments or questions?
I think it's a great idea.
Commissioner Crable.
I would, Mr. Chair, if I may, I'd like to amend my motion to add the director of the Boys and Girls Club. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Got one more comment, Mr. Chair, because I want to make sure, because you amended the motion, and some of these other organizations I didn't mention, right? So I want to make sure that the individual organizations that I previously reached out to are a part of this discussion as well. And if I can make that amendment, or if you've got to make that amendment, or can I mention those organizations so we can move forward?
Well, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Murray.
To address Commissioner Kuntz's concern, there comes a point, in my experience, that you have too many people on an advisory board or committee, and it gets too unwieldy. I was okay with adding one more. We already had kind of a large committee. I'm not sure who else you had in mind.
Okay. Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Kuntz.
Simple question. What becomes too many, particularly when they're already involved in work for our youth, for senior citizens? Would too many be 3 or 4 more organizations that weren't mentioned? Would too many be 5 or 6? So I think I'd rather measure that on the impact that the work that they've already done in the community has. That's where I stand. So clarification. If I mention some of these individuals, for instance, like we haven't talked about individuals who already do work with youth, and they're not necessarily always nonprofits, right? One of those organizations is Next Level Fitness, and I know that they work with tons of kids, right? I'd like to hear from them. They're a younger generation of folks too. That's just one. Some of the others, I think you mentioned Firelands. I had them on my list. The Mental Health and Recovery Board, they're on my list. I mentioned Boys and Girls Club. Who else? And I think we pretty much, everybody else you mentioned before. So I just wanted to make sure that I put that out there.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Mr. Murray.
So these will be public meetings, and so all of these folks would be welcome to attend, and I would hope that an invitation would be extended to them, maybe by even you. But with the addition of the Boys and Girls representative, we're now up to 13 people on a committee. I don't think committees function well beyond about 11, preferably 9. So to answer your question, that's kind of where I draw the line.
Okay, so Mr. Chair.
Mr. Kuntz.
Another question. Because as I said before, I've already reached out to the individuals. So now do I recant? Do I say, you know what? Nah, we got too many already, right? So the individuals who have been invited, right, if there are 1 or 2 that you say it's over the limit, is there any harm in saying, hey, you've been invited already, you can participate in these conversations?
Mr. Kuntz, you're reaching out to people individually. We act as a body, and we're acting as a body here through a motion that has been, we've been motioned and we've seconded. And then Mr. Murray has asked to amend that motion to acquiesce to one additional person that you had. And I agree with Mr. Murray. I think I got a preview of this earlier today, and I thought 11 was too many. I agree with you. We can add, you can get this number up to 25 or 30 very well-meaning and well-deserved people, but I think to be effective, I think we have a very effective group here right now. I'm completely supportive of the amended motion to add the Boys and Girls Club. Perhaps that was an omission, but there's a lot of people that I think there's a lot of people still out there that we are omitting, trying to be efficient with this also. And I'm good with the motion. Okay. I'm good with the amended motion, but I'm not in favor of expanding this further.
Mr. Chair, I'm not, it's not a problem to keep it where it is, but
Sure.
I want to make sure that I am doing due diligence in terms of understanding how we operate. Number one, I understand exactly what you said about we operate as a body.
Yes.
I get that. But based on the city charter, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, that in any of these individual committees that we're on as liaisons, I've read in the city charter, maybe it was updated and I just missed it, but it also said that those commissioners who are liaisons can actually start advisory committees, right? That don't necessarily even have to be approved by the city commission. I'd like to know if I'm wrong about that, because if I'm wrong, I'll recant and I'll say, well, excuse me, forgive me.
I believe that is completely wrong. I believe it is S29 that Mr. Hastings shared with me on how an advisory committee is formed is by the city commission, not by an individual commissioner. It's done by the vote of the city commission, not done by the president, not accomplished by an individual city commissioner.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Waddington.
I know we're talking about getting groups together and different folks, but the big thing is we got 14 million. Some of that's already gone. I think we need to look at what's our budget. Is it 10 million, 11 million? That's one of the first things that we have to decide on. We got X amount of dollars to build this rec center. So we can't have 5 gyms or whatever, you know. I think we need to look at that. I don't know who's going to be in charge of that, but when I met with John on Friday, that was a concern of mine, because that 14 million, I read in the paper, somebody had 15 million listed. It was 14, but we got $1 million in remediation of the land there, correct? We got to do that. The gas pipe, who knows what that is? I've heard about that, for the last 5 years. And then the other costs that we're going to have developing this,
Thank you, Mr. Whiting. We have a motion on the table regarding the formation of this advisory committee. That motion has been amended by Mr. Murray. Do I have a second?
Second.
I need a second to that
Second.
amended motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Jolly.
I'm wondering, as a compromise, could we make sure that the people that Mr. Kuntz wants to engage in this conversation, that they are also invited when we have these meetings, so they get a personal invitation? Because I find that I forget about when meetings are, or I don't hear them, so that they can come and participate because they are public meetings.
Certainly it's a public meeting, and I certainly would not have any objection. I don't think Mr. Murray has any objection to that. And if it means us creating a communication to those people, that's certainly very easy for staff to do. Excellent. Mr. Kuntz, you good with that?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Ms. Myers, will you call a roll on that motion, please?
Yes, Mr. President.
Excuse me, we need to call a roll on the amended motion, on the amendment to the motion.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Bajali?
Yes.
Mr. Kuntz?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Spargo?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
yes,
That motion is amended. And now, Ms. Myers, will you call a roll on the original motion?
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Bajali?
Yes.
Mr. Kuntz?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Spargo?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
yes.
That motion is passed, and we will establish or have established an advisory committee. Additional items in new business.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Barr.
I could have maybe asked you this, John, in your presentation. It wasn't anything about what you said, but I was approached by the sailing club, and they are looking to see, they're having people having trouble finding them. And so they want to put a sign up in that entrance. I don't know if it'll be temporary for now until all the work's done down there, but in the entrance that's across from about the bait house, I think, right there where there's a gravel. And they were asking about all the potholes and everything going down that road. I would assume that that's going to be fixed eventually, but we're not going to go and fix it right now until everything's done. Am I right with that, or?
Yeah, Mr. Klein, I believe, has temporary signs put up to the north and south of the location, right? Yeah, indicating where the sailing club access is, and we'll look at making sure that it's as traverse as possible. I know back behind, we want them to come in the straight way instead of going down Washington and behind the police station. But we are fixing that
Well, I think
holdback
too,
there
especially,
to make sure that they can get through.
are you talking about coming in at the Water and Meg Street?
Correct.
Well, that'll be a whole nother discussion later, but I think it has been a little hard for, with boats, and we'll see how that all works with everybody turning big things down there. But in the other, for now, can they utilize that other entranceway?
Yeah, and I'll let Mr. Klein, he's been kind of organizing with the construction crew there at the Justice Center along with Chief Oliver to make sure that there's adequate access.
Okay.
If you want to add anything, Aaron?
Yes, through the Commission President, what we're trying to do is get everybody to continue northerly on Meg's and use either the temporary entrance that's at that four-way intersection with Market, or continue up to East Water Street. The one on Market, we are looking to add some asphalt to and kind of fix that up. We added about 20, 30 feet of asphalt because we were getting a lot of gravel on the bike path, creating a dangerous situation, but we want to add more for the sailing club as well now. And we're also trying to get the contractor at the Justice Center to move as quickly as they can to open up that parking lot that is between the tennis courts and the parking lot that's going to be designated for the police and the Justice Center, so that they can move through there, because that portion of the parking lot that's between the skate ramp, the skate park, and the Justice Center will be fenced and gated. So they will not have access anymore off of Washington, and the last thing we need is for somebody to have a boat or sailboat or something go down Washington and try to figure out how to get out. So we are signing it. There are temporary signs up if there are more. I also talked to the Commodore and told him exactly what the plan was, and he said he'd reach out to all of his users.
Okay, this came from them just this weekend to me from their leadership, so can I just have them call you again?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Klein. Additional items in new business.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Jolly.
I think this is new business. I happened to turn on, was it the finance meeting on Friday? And it was a great meeting. Michelle, you always do a great job. But the gentleman who spoke, is he our bond counsel, or what is his affiliation with the city?
Through the chair to Commissioner Pajali, Mike Cecina is our municipal advisor. So his role is debt preparation, looking at long-term plans, and he works with bond counsel.
Okay.
He is not bond counsel. Bond counsel, we typically have used Squires in the past for actual debt issuances.
And I can't recall, but does he give that presentation to the full city commission?
He has not in the past, just typically to Finance Committee. He comes in about once a year.
Is there any reason why we couldn't get him to attend and give us that presentation? I thought it was excellent.
I don't see any reason why. Is there any reason why commissioners can't get out of bed and attend the Finance Committee meeting?
Well, I was out of bed, but I didn't realize that the meeting was that morning. I must have missed John's announcement or something. I just think he's worth hearing.
It's such an important meeting that I think that's a great suggestion, Commissioner Pajali. It's such an important meeting to hear what your debt limit is and where we're at in financing. I think it would be an excellent idea. And honestly, what was it? Not more than, I'd say it might have been 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, it probably was 15, 20 minutes. But we do have a lot of debt issuance this year, so absolutely.
Yeah.
With the first thing coming up probably being the Justice Center, I'm sure he would be love to come in and talk to the commissioners about.
Come back and do that? Great. Good
Great.
suggestion. Thank you, Commissioner
Thank you.
Jolly.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Murray.
I think those meetings are held at 8 o'clock in the morning, because if you made that presentation at 6:30 at night, we'd have several commissioners not off, myself included. But it was interesting at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Under items of new business, I had an interesting request here over the weekend from the director of the State Theater, who is with us in the back of the room, Chris Parthmore. The request revolved around an opportunity that the theater is asking us for, simply a motion of support for them to seek documents to perhaps put the city of Sandusky and obviously the State Theater in a position to entertain the thought of the Sundance Film Festival moving from Park City, Utah to Sandusky, Ohio. It is fact that their contract in Park City, Utah, which they've been there for 40 years, expires in 2027, and they are beginning the process of seeking new locations. This motion of support that the theater is asking us for is nothing other than the support for them to seek documents to make the analysis of whether this may be a fit for Sandusky. And there's certainly a lot of collaboration that would go into that, but it is simply an opportunity to see the documents. One of the requirements of the Sundance Music Festival is to have a motion of support from a governing body for them to release documents to prospective cities. I think it's a great opportunity. I think it's probably one of the longest of long shots, but that's how you start, I guess. I would ask for with that explanation, Mr. Parthmore, can you add anything to that, or is?
You ask a theater guy if he wants to talk. Sure, if you want to talk.
Give him a microphone.
I appreciate you doing this on such short notice too, but they simply said in order to receive the confidential information, you must be duly and properly authorized by a public official or city council, if applicable, to submit to the process.
Yeah.
And this is simply for you to be able to get a set of documents.
Yep, simply for us to be able to request information. So when this opportunity came about, I reached out to both GSP and Shores and Islands and just made sure everybody was interested, because it would take quite a group to pull off something like this, but Sandusky's gotten pretty darn good at putting on big events for people from out of town. And everyone was interested. We reached out to Sundance, and we simply have to have this authorization to get information to decide if we want to put in a proposal.
I've read, a speed read through an economic development document regarding that opportunity, and it's somewhat unbelievable. They account for 150,000 visitors over about a 10-day period. And the thing that appealed to me more than anything else was the timeline for doing it is January 22nd to February the 2nd or 3rd. That is certainly past our shoulder season as far as tourism goes. It would be a plus type of opportunity for the city as far as rooms, hotels, restaurants, accommodations, things like that.
Our thought was that we had the proximity to airports, we had the stock of hotel rooms. We've put on all these big events. We're going to have the new State Theater and the facilities to put this on, so why not us?
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion for that purpose.
So moved.
Second.
Been a motion and a second. Discussion?
Mr. Chairman, was that Robert Redford started that Sundance Festival?
He did, yes. I think he might be the president of the Sundance Institute still to this day. But
His daughter's now the president.
He started that one.
40 years ago.
Are they out in Arizona?
Utah.
Park City, Utah.
We're going to build some ski slopes.
I guess so.
That's out of the box, Chris. Good job.
Mr. Myers, you call roll up. Mr. Crable.
Just going to say Con next. The Cannes Film.
Cons from France.
Just looking high.
Yeah, why not swing for the fences?
Mr. Myers, you call roll on that motion, please.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Pajali?
Yes.
Mr. Kuntz?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yeah.
Ms. Fargo?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
That motion is passed. Mr. Orzak, would you generate a document, perhaps some kind of document indicating that motion passed?
Put it on my list.
Okay. It's a long list, I know.
I can reach out and make it easy on them.
Great.
No worries. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parthmore. Any additional items in new business? Any public comments regarding any items that pertains to city business? Please step to the podium, give us your name and address and your comments. Mr. LaMarca, you've sat there now for 2 hours. That's it?
Isn't that great?
Works for us, I know that. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We're adjourned.